As we said earlier, the poll shows a two-person race at the top of the field, Cruz and Trump tied effectively within the margin of error. Let's talk about Trump first, since he is the national leader. What are, below the horse race number at the top, what are Trump's strengths that emerge from this poll with different groups of voters?
Well, there's some interesting groups here. First of all, people have speculated that he may be bringing in first-time caucus goers, and in fact, he leads with first-time caucus goers, and that suggests they're there because of Trump. He also does well with moderate voters. Now, in Iowa, the Republican caucus going public, that's a relatively small group, but that's an interesting group for Trump. And then finally, and probably most importantly, he has a strong share of his supporters who say their minds are made up. They are locked in. And that's the most important thing you can do as a candidate, is get your people to lock in when you have especially a big field of candidates. 64%, that's 2 out of 3 of his supporters say their mind is made up, they're not going to shift.
And how does that number, how does that mind makes up number compare to past candidates? Is that a particularly large number to have at this phase?
Typically, at this stage, we're getting awfully close, Mark, but you still have people who are keeping an open mind. It's the assignment Iowa gets, which is to look at the largest field of candidates available. On caucus night, their neighbors are going to try to politic them into changing their mind, and a lot of people keep their mind open. So having 2 out of 3 that say they won't budge, that's a good number.
So, Ann, I wanted to ask you the exact same question that Mark started out with, except let's apply it to Ted Cruz, the co-frontrunner. What do we know about Ted Cruz and who he's doing well with in Iowa right now?
Well, Ted Cruz is doing well with groups that any candidate would wish to have, and those are the groups that most reliably show up on caucus night. So people who've caucused before, they know the drill, they know where to go, they know what to do. Seniors, people age 65 and over, again, they know the drill, they've been there before typically, and people who are very conservative. And that's a group that, again, they tend to be the hardest core of the hardcore. He's doing especially well in the 4th district in Iowa, and that's a district where turnout is always higher than you would expect just based on population. It's a very Republican district, but even beyond that, they turn people out. That same is true of evangelicals. That is, you look at their polling numbers and you think, okay, well, that's the proportion going to be there, but routinely more evangelicals show up. So with Ted Cruz having a 20-point advantage among evangelicals, that's something in his corner that is a nice to have.
And we did a deeper dive in this poll on Ted Cruz because of his prominence in the race now, and beneath the horse race and the crosstab demographics and geographics of the voters, we also asked a lot of questions about his background, his campaign style, and policy positions. What did we find there that's interesting to you?
Well, interesting to me is the way that they cluster, is that you have people who really like him because he agitates and angers people in Congress, the people he has to work with, and that he has taken such a strong stance on immigration. Those things kind of contrast with that he has Christian values and that they expect that he will uphold those, and that he's avoided criticizing Trump. So you kind of have the naughty and the nice, and they both play well with Iowa voters.
And given the way that the caucuses work, the question of second choice matters a lot. What's the, just talk a little bit about that with respect to Trump and Cruz and what the poll shows.
Well, a second choice is a question that we always turn to because anything can happen, anything can change. And so kind of knowing what the backup choice is there. So many things in this poll show Ted Cruz and Donald Trump being kind of shadow images of each other, that they appeal a lot. They have many of the same characteristics. It's hard to separate them, but there's not parity when it comes to second choice. 47% of Trump supporters would vote for Cruz as second choice. It's only 25% of Donald Trump supporters would vote for, Cruz supporters would vote for Donald Trump.
So, Ann, we're getting now down towards the end where there'll be more polling by the Des Moines Register and Bloomberg Politics, your Iowa poll, before we get to the D-Day. But right now, if you look at where Trump is, where Cruz is it possible to say that is it the right thing to say they both have advantages and both have disadvantages, or does one of them seem to be better positioned?
I think the biggest advantage that Donald Trump has is that a higher proportion of the people who support him say they cannot be moved. They're there, they're with him. But for Ted Cruz, he has a higher proportion of people who say they will definitely show up on caucus night. And it's kind of like the Powerball. You can't win if you don't play. Well, for Ted Cruz, you can't win if your people don't show up. On Donald Trump, that's his worry between now and caucus night. Cruz, to me, has a small advantage of having more people who say they will definitely show up. So for now, small advantage Cruz.
And finally, we say now there's a clear race for first. Unless something extraordinary happens, we're going to see Cruz versus Trump. One of those two will win. Is third place now basically a two-man race between Ben Carson and Marco Rubio, or is there anyone else who looks like they have the potential to get into the fight for third?
I think it's between those two, and if they're just a point apart, it's not going to look like a real clear third place winner.